Alright, so this is my Time Leap Chrono Gears deck, and have my standard 16 stand triggers. Should be obvious why. Because I want to stand and attack, stand and attack, stand and attack. And the more I attack, the more chances that I have of hitting my opponent, dealing them damage and winning the game. And then sometimes, you have effects that trigger from attacking. So standing your rear guards and attacking again, so you can trigger the effects more than once per turn. Is obviously very useful, especially if it's a really good effect, especially if it's an effect that can help you, retire some Vanguards, or helps you draw more cards, so you have a nice sizable hand for when it's your opponent's turn, so you can guard better, and so on and so on. So it's the main purpose for me to use my 16 stand triggers. This is a Time Leap Gear Chronicles deck, obviously, so I have some Time Leap cards in here that gives me the ability to Time Leap, which is essentially banishing, removing from the game temporarily one of my rear guards, replacing it with another rear guard that's a grade higher from my deck onto the field, and then of course I could attack with that new monster, and then at the end of the turn return the monster that I summon, the unit that I summon, return it back to the deck, to the bottom of the deck specifically, and then return any of my bind or banish units and bring them back onto the field into any of the available rear guard circles. It's essentially, I'm using Time Leap just like I use stand triggers. It's just a way of getting more attacks in per turn. The difference between time leaping and stand triggers is, of course, I have to drive check to get the triggers, in order to get the extra stands, so I can get the extra attacks, of course. And then the thing about Time Leap is that I need to generation break before or generation stride, I should say, stride before I can Time Leap. I wish I could just Time Leap whenever I felt like it, or counterblast to Time Leap, but right now I have to have generation break. So I have to have at least one face up G unit in my G zone in order to trigger the Time Leap mechanic. But by the time I get to that point, if I have the generation stride, obviously I'm in a position where my opponent's blocking a lot, so they can constantly block, and I need a way of bypassing their ability to block by getting more attacks in. Alright, moving on. I got Gear Cat Meshing Cogs. It's a stand trigger. Has the activated ability in the rear guard circle. Put this unit into your soul. Choose up to one of your units, and it gets plus 3,000 power until the end of the turn. It's pretty decent, I don't have to do anything other than just put it in my soul to get that 3,000 boost to any of my units. That includes my Vanguard. And then I have space to, put more units on the field, and boost and all this extra good stuff. So it's like a way of getting an extra 3k boost in case I need to run over something and deal damage and whatnot. Of course, gotta have the perfect guard. Choose a card from your hand, discard it. When this unit is placed in your guard circle from your hand, pay the cost by discarding a card, of course. If you do, choose one of your Vanguards that is being attacked, and that unit cannot be hit until the end of that battle. And if there is a card named Steam Maiden Arlium, which is what she is, in your drop zone, choose a card from your drop zone and turn it face up. In your damage zone, and turn it face up. So it's pretty good because it's a damage flipper, In case you counter blast, you can, perfect guard, and if you have one of her already in the graveyard, then you can, flip a damage, so that's useful. So you can reuse your damage for counterblast, so you can continue to use your effects. Then we have another stand trigger. It's a 1-2 punch Dreco Kid, and that's it. It's just a stand trigger. It has no abilities. Then we have Steam Battler Urwater or Urwatar. It has a auto counter blast generation break 1. Put this unit onto the bottom of your deck. When this unit is put into your bind zone from the rear guard circle, you may pay the cost, which is to put it on the bottom of your deck. If you do, you draw 2 cards. Choose a card from among the cards in your hand, return that card you chose back into your deck, and shuffle. So this is obviously a good way of reusing reusing him as a stand trigger, because you're constantly putting him back in the deck, and you're drawing 2 cards and choosing one to keep and one to put back, essentially. So you're getting pluses out of that, but it only really triggers when it's currently bind. But I mainly use it for its stand. Then we got Vanguard Dreamgear Cat. It has an auto ability, rear guard circle, once per turn, so only can use it one time in a single turn. Generation break 1. When your opponent rear guard is put into his or her deck due to an effect from one of your cards, choose one of your opponent's other units. Choose one of your opponent's units, and then you may have it. Wait, no. Why am I reading wrong? Choose one of your other units, and you may have it gain 10,000 until the end of turn. So that's pretty good to get that extra 10k boost, right? And if you do, return this unit to your deck and shuffle your deck. So it's a good way of putting stand triggers back in deck. So it's a good way of getting a quick extra 10k boost, which can obviously make a big difference, because you'll make some pretty big columns to attack with, right? And then it goes back in your deck, so when you drive check, you can get your stand trigger off, because you put this back in the deck and have a chance of actually drive checking it, right? So those are my 16 stand triggers. This is one of my grade 1s, which is for Thoughtful Gear Fox. Has a auto Vanguard and rear guard effect. When this unit attacks, until the end of that battle, your opponent cannot call grade 0 cards from their hand to the guard circle, which is good to use him as a rear guard attacker. Have him in the front row, right? Have a booster, boost him up, and then attack with him, and don't have to worry about your opponent guarding with a grade 0. They're going to have to perfect guard this if they want to guard it. So this is a way you can get essentially some free hits. They could of course intercept with a grade 2 or whatnot. It depends. I mean, since this is a grade 1, you can go early game and go in and deal some damage. Because let's say you do it this way, right? Let's say your opponent goes first, he summons his grade 1 and he has his turn, right? Your turn, you summon your grade 1, but then you summon him, summon another grade 1 or grade 0, whatever, right? That for boosting purposes, right? And then you attack opponent's rear guard, and you don't have to worry about him blocking. Typically your opponent might not block, and might take the hit, but sometimes they might want to block, and this won't let them guard with us grade 0. So you can take advantage of that. So it's kind of like a Silent Tom. Moving on. Then we got Cornerstone Gear Turtle. He has the Time Leap ability, auto rear guard circle, generation break 1. When you drive check reveals a grade 3, you may time leap this unit. Which is pretty good. There is 6 grade 3s in the deck, so the chances that you might you might drive check a grade 3 is highly possible. And then you'll be able to time leap, which will allow you to summon a unit that's one grade higher than this unit. So for example, you'll summon a grade 2, and then you can attack with that grade 2, and then during the end phase, return it back to the bottom of the deck, summon this back onto the field, and continue, playing the game, right? It also has a continuous effect, whether it's in the Vanguard, rear guard, or even in the guard circle. Has resist. This unit cannot be chosen by the effects of your opponent's cards, so it's virtually untouchable, right? So you gotta love that. So you don't have to worry about, getting locked or having this thing get retired or anything of that nature, because it has resist. It's immune to that stuff, right? Then we got, for my grade 2 lineup, Dreamgear Dragon has time leap ability, auto, rear guard circle, generation break 1, counter blasting 1. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose up to one of your other rear guards and then time leap it. Typically, I'll probably use this effect on another grade 2 I might have, and then summon a grade 3, and whatnot. But this is pretty good because of the fact that you can time leap another one of your rear guards that might not have the time leap ability, and you could time leap it into something, right? So for example, if I attacked with my 4 thoughtful Gear Fox, attack, does some damage, right? Then I went and attacked with my Dreamgear Dragon, then trigger his time leap ability. Then I can turn my Gear Thoughtful, my Gear Fox, right, into another Dreamgear Dragon, right? And then attack, trigger this one's effect by counter blasting 1, right? And then turn the first Dreamgear Dragon I have and turn it into a grade 3. I can summon Disposal Dragon, or I can summon Heavy Iron Hammer Colossus, and then I attack that way. So it's pretty nifty what I can do with that. Also, if I'm in the scenario where I have a grade 0 instead, obviously I can use this on one of the grade 0s. For example, I use it on Steam Battler, Wadar, right? Use it on him to summon, my Gear Fox. I'll be able to trigger Wadar's effect and draw 2 cards, put 1 back in the deck, and shuffle and all that good stuff. Okay, my second grade 2 is Steam Knight Caliban Auto. When this unit is placed in the rear guard circle, choose one of your opponent's rear guards. Your opponent returns that unit to his or her deck. Search, and then they search their deck for up to 1 card that's a grade less than the unit that you returned, and call it to a rear guard circle and shuffle their deck. Obviously, I could use Dreamgear Dragon's ability to time leap, a Gear Fox, or whatever I want, or I could use, of course, the Cornerstone Gear Turtle, and time leap into Caliban, and then use Caliban's effect to spin or bounce, whatever you want to call it, spin one of their units back into their deck, and then have them summon a weaker, lower grade rear guard unit. And moving on, we have Steam Knight Poser 3. It's what I normally like to call it, but that's not his name. But anyway, auto rear guard is use Soul Blast 2. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, until the end of that battle, your opponent cannot call grade 0 cards from their hand to the guard circle. So this is another way I can attack and essentially avoid getting guarded, other than a perfect guard. You know what I mean? You're trying to force your opponent to use up the perfect guards if they want to block. If they don't want to take damage, they want to use the perfect guard instead of using their grade 0s to block. Then for the grade 3 lineup, we have Heavy Iron Hammer Colossus. Has the time leap ability, Auto Vanguard. When your drive check reveals a grade 3 card, choose up to one of your other rear guards and you may time leap it. So one, because it's a grade 3, obviously you get to drive check twice, you know, double check, drive check. And then if any of them is a grade 3, you know, you get to use your time leap effect on one of your rear guards and be able to time leap. And since I attack with the rear guards before I attack with the Vanguard, obviously it's very useful to, you know, use my rear guards to attack, time leap, attack, then attack with him, drive check. Hopefully one of them is a stand trigger, you know what I mean, so I can get an extra attack, but then hopefully the other one is a grade 3. Or if I get 2 stand triggers, even better. But if I get a grade 3 and a stand trigger, it's just as good, because then I could time leap one of my rear guards, summon something else I can attack with, of course, that's an extra attack, and then of course the stand trigger, I can stand something and attack. So either way, whether I get the grade 0, which are my stand triggers, or a grade 3, I will still be able to stand and attack essentially, you know what I mean? That's a way of looking at it. Because, you know, sometimes when you play, you might drive check a grade 3 and you typically don't get nothing for doing that. But with him, with the time leap mechanic, you know, you do get something for that. So it essentially turns your grade 3s into stand triggers. So it's almost like having 24 stand triggers as opposed to my standard 16, right? And more stand triggers, the better. If every one of my cards can be stand triggers, I will make the whole entire deck stand triggers, right? I will have 50 stand triggers in the whole entire deck. But right now I technically have 24, which is like half the deck is stand trigger, basically, based off of that effect. But anyway, its secondary ability is Auto Vanguard. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, this unit gets 2,000 extra power for that battle. So it's not bad. It's like, you know, it's a 13k on its own. You know, you boost it with like a 7k. You know, it'll be a 20k. If you boost with anything higher than that, like let's say you give it 10k boost, it'll be a 21 plus 2. It'll be a 23k. And then if you 23 and then you boost it with a 7k, then you know you got a 30k attacker. You know what I mean? Obviously you can make pretty big numbers. Then we have, you know, one of the 2 things you need to go into Legion, Ruin Disposal Dragon. He legions with Steam Knight, Puser 3. Of course, he'll be a 20k Vanguard if you legion, and you should know how to legion. He has an auto effect in the Vanguard circle. When this unit legions, when this unit legions, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards, and your opponent puts that unit on the bottom of his or her deck. So when you legion with this, when you legion and summon the Steam Knight Puser 3, then you can obviously trigger this effect, which is to choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards and put it on the bottom of your opponent's deck. Then you got secondary effect, which is Auto Vanguard. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, it gets 2,000 extra power for that battle. So it becomes a 13k when it attacks the Vanguard. which of course, you know, again, it's, you know, how you play it, you can make pretty big numbers. And this also has twin drive check, of course, because it's a grade 3. Then we got 2 copies of the starting Vanguard, which is TikTok Worker. It has the auto effect of Forerunner, so when you ride a unit on top of this in the Vanguard circle, this you can put this in your rear guard circle. It has the time leap effect, auto rear guard, generation break 1. Put this unit into your soul. At the end of the battle that your other rear guard attacked, you may pay the cost if you do time leap that unit. So obviously, if you have this in your rear guard circle and you attack with a rear guard, you know, after that rear guard battled, you can take this, put it into your soul, and then you can time leap, you know, which is really awesome, right? Then you can time leap, bring out something else that's a grade higher than the monster that you time leap, and then attack with that, and, you know, go on from there. So really good effect. Wish a lot of my stuff had that effect, right? Where I could just like attack, boost, and then after the monster battled, take the monster I used to boost, right? Put it into my soul, for example, right? And then I can time leap so I can get another attack. I wish, you know, more of my monsters had TikTok's Worker's abilities, but hey, at least I have 2. One that I start the game off with, and one that I could potentially draw later and use. So it's a really good card. I like it, and it's adorable, right? And then for my G units, I have Interstellar Dragon, Chronos Command Dragon. I think that says Dragon. I could barely read it, but anyway. Yeah, you can stride it, obviously. You should know how to stride. Auto Vanguard ability, Counter Blast 2, and then Soul Blast 1. Choose a card from your hand and discard it. When this unit attacks, hits a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, your opponent puts all of his or her rear guards on the bottom of his or her deck. So obviously that's a great way of wiping your opponent's board. And of course, the way I play this deck is to constantly attack your opponent, you know, stand triggers, this, that, you know, just constantly forcing your opponent to kind of waste their hand, and, you know, force them to block a lot. If they're not blocking, they're taking damage. So obviously they'll want to block, not to take damage, but that's the whole point, is you want to keep attacking, so they have to keep blocking. And then when they're low on cards, because you keep doing that, then of course, since the last thing you do is attack with the Vanguard should be able to attack virtually without being blocked. And when it hits the Vanguard, not only do you deal damage, of course, then you have the potential to wipe their board, get rid of all their rear guards, and set them back a turn. Now if they survive and then they have their turn to, and they can have combo to fill up their field again, well, that's great for them. But if they don't, they're screwed, right? And there's 4 copies of it, so that way you can constantly do that. And then they have command has a triple drive check, so you can drive check 3 times. Gotta love that. Then we have Interdimensional Dragon, Ragnarok Dragon. It has stride ability. Of course, you stride it to get it onto the field. Has auto ability Vanguard, Counter Blast 1, and choose a face down card. Name Interdimensional Dragon Ragnarok Dragon from your G zone and turn it face up. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, until the end of that battle, your opponent cannot call grade 0 cards from their hand to the guard circle. Then if the number of face up cards in the G zone is 2 or more, this unit gets an extra critical until the end of that turn. So it's pretty good, you know. Free, you know, an extra free crit, so you can deal 2 damage instead of, as opposed to 1. But the main use for it is obviously is to trigger the idea of dealing is not being able to be blocked by anything other than perfect guard or a intercept. So they're forced to have to use less resources to block, so you have a better chance of hitting damage, which is important. And this card triple drives, of course, so you could drive check 3 times. And that's the end of my deck profile.